All right, so we're doing some training here on how to do accord forms, and which is really a great question for commercial insurance. So I want to highlight a couple things just to start. So um, first off, on our YouTube training channel, and again, we're going to go through this, Spencer, in detail. So um, we'll go through the example right now, but I want to just also highlight where we have some items that are going to help. So what
Right.
I've been doing myself, even because I'm shooting a lot of videos, more and more videos, is I'll go to the channel and then I'll just type in maybe what I'm trying to find. It could be commercial, it could be personal, it could be whatever. But so I'll go and we'll click on the videos and I'll click, let's see, commercial. Okay. So, and here's this would be a good video, by the way. There's a few that would probably be really good to reference where it's basically going to walk you through what we're going to kind of do live right now. So this says how to set up a new
Yeah.
commercial submission and data entry.
Sorry to cut you
Yeah.
short. I can only see the Teams screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. So we've got, this has happened before. Trying to, how about now?
Let's. Oh yes, I can see it now.
Perfect. Okay.
Perfect.
All right. So, yeah, we're just saying on our YouTube training channel, on our strategic insurance training channel, I just went in and I searched commercial, and we have several
Mm-hmm.
videos that I think will help. So, how to set up a new commercial submission and data entry. This one's on the fact finder and the replacement cost estimator. And then this one, how to set up in commercial in Easy Links and how to do a work comp accord. So they're going to be very similar. And then this one here, how to fill in a commercial accord PDF. So all those are going to be really, really good. Again, we'll walk through this live right now because I think it'll be hopefully a helpful training. So we're going to go to Easy Links now. And right now we're at the spot where Spencer and our team has already done the basic data entry for the client based off of our fact finder, and then also done a replacement cost estimate, which is really quite a bit. So that's off to a good start for sure. So we're going to pull the client up here. So this one's HKM of Tampa. This a gentleman that called off one of our postcards. Okay, so we see we've got a lot of the basic info here. So, and in terms of and I'm just going to pull this up now, pulling info, the fact finder is always a critical part, right? So we need the fact finder to really generate the information into the system. And I'm going to actually do this right now for, let's see, I don't know if Jumana got put in there as well yet. Yeah, perfect. So just because I was able to pull Jumana up right now. So this is another one. Again, same gentleman that called. He has two properties. So here's the fact finder, right? Again, this is kind of always step one. You've got to get your fact finder done and get all your info, kind of name, rank, serial number. In essence, and just high level here, Spencer, this will become the data that we're going to input into the applications.
Right.
I'm going to put this over onto the other side, though, and we'll show you certainly how all this works. Again, we've got all the kind of details here on the client. This is on the details screen, right? Info here. We would want to, and I see, like, I'll just copy and paste. I'll put the phone number in here. And then, again, good job of putting kind of everything else in. So we've got all of that. Okay. So we go on our, these two screens here. We've already got some applications established, which is good. So now what I'll do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to edit the application. Okay. This is going to bring us into this screen here. So what we want to think about with Easy Links is the info we put into the system, into these actual screens here, will ultimately be what we're going to pull out into the PDFs, into the Accord applications. And for those of you that may be watching this or that don't know, an Accord application is simply it's like a uniform standard application that almost any commercial insurance carrier, frankly, almost any carrier will accept. It's a way to kind of standardize and say, okay, we work with 50 companies, right? Which we literally do, as opposed to having, you know, I've got to pull Travelers application and Liberty Mutual's application and Nationwide's application. It's just a uniform, it's a standard app, right? It's sort of a generic app that you can use for anything. So it really helps make life a lot easier here. Now, some of this info will pull through that was based on the details screen. If it didn't, for whatever reason, I just re-put it in, okay? So seeing, you know, for whatever reason, the email and some of those things maybe didn't pull through, okay? Now, the nature of the business is going to be kind of what do they do, right? Like, what is it? Now, to be fair, this is something that the salesperson likely would have to let you know, or you could look up, if the person didn't let you know, you could look it up and Google it, and you normally can get an idea, right? So if I just Google the address, I can see and get an idea of what is it. Well, now, this happens to be a restaurant. I'm sorry, a hotel. And yeah, hotel would probably fall likely under retailer service. Okay, so we've already got that in there, and then we see they put motel 26 units, and then we've got here the locations. Now this is important. If there were multiple locations, we would add another location there. Okay, and then once we have the location, I'm going to scroll down here. You're going to see it says add building. Okay, so now I'm going to click and add the building. All right, and this is where we're going to put through some of the details that's actually going to pull through to the accord forms. So I'm going to just put 26 unit motel. Now the square footage, these three are almost always the same. The occupied, open to public total is almost always the same. So here, the total square footage is 12,000 square feet. Okay, so I'm going to put that in all three. The only thing that could be a little bit different is maybe if, let's say I own the building, and I rent part of the building out. Let's say it's a 10,000 square foot building. I have my business in there that's 2,000 square feet. I rent the other 8,000 out. That's where some of these could differ a little bit in terms of, you know, I occupy 2,000, but it's really 12,000 total, okay? In terms of employees, we'll put that in. So you've got, actually just got 2 employees, any other inch area leased, and then we're gonna put that they're the owner, okay? And then we're gonna put, save and add building. I'm sorry, actually we would just click save because there's just one building. Okay, so then we've got that in there. Now we're gonna go, and a lot of this is kind of like follow the bouncing ball. So now we'll click the next screen. By the way, this is just gonna coordinate to what's over at the top here. And we've got in here, okay, general liability. So this is obviously we need, traditionally for business owners, you need coverage for a building and or their contents, and then obviously if someone slips and falls or they get hurt in any way, we need coverage for that. And that's what general liability is, okay? Right. So we're just going to fit in here, and we're going to put the aggregate is, we almost always have 1 million, 2 million. And all I'm doing here is putting in what the standard numbers would be. And again, especially for our our service team and our kind of our data entry team, if you will, even if this isn't 100% right and you're not sure, just getting some of this in there is so helpful. Can't stress that enough. So, but again, here, so we've got 1 million per occurrence, 2 million aggregate. All the other numbers here are pretty much as follows. Personal and advertising injury always matches the each occurrence. This is libel and slander. That's what that means. So if somebody, you know, and actually I think there's even, if you kind of hover here, it gives you an idea and says general liability, personal injury, you know, it kind of gives you a little bit of a, if you just kind of hover in the box, it'll give you some additional things. Damage to rented premises is normally 100,000. That's if, let's say, perhaps I'm renting a space and a fire starts in my space and it does damage to the rest of the building. That would actually potentially be picked up on my general liability, right? And then this says each occurrence, most they're going to pay is $1 million. Somebody comes in, they slip and fall, they sue really bad, they broke their neck, God forbid. Carrier will pay up to $1 million in that sense, and then up to $2 million total for the year. That would be if there were multiple claims throughout the year. So that's what that is. And then really employee benefit liability. That's not always going to apply. Frankly, for the most part, you can leave that blank. Okay. So then we're going to go and we're going to click next here. The GL class code, and again, you may not always know this, you'll start to learn probably over time. It's going to be based on what the client does. Now, again, I always encourage people, like, you can Google anything. So I'm going to do this because I don't know off the top of my head myself. So I'm going to put motel liability class code, okay, and see what comes up. Okay, so it looks like 45192 is the liability code for that. Now here's the other nice thing, guys, is that even if you fill that out wrong or you don't know what it is, the actual carrier will normally be able to fix that and do some research based on that, okay?
Okay.
Insurance is always based on one of three things, commercial insurance. Traditionally, it's either based on payroll, sales, or area. They've got a few others like units and admissions. Those are very rare, but traditionally you're either area, which is square footage, sales, or payroll. To be honest, and that may be an example where the motel is actually based on units, so it could be 26 units, okay? Here's what I normally recommend doing, is putting in what you think is correct. And again, you may not know. I understand that. That's why we always do try to get here. If you look, square footage, revenue, and then payroll. I should have payroll numbers in a different spot. And again, if for whatever payroll was not listed, you could certainly reach out to the person that submitted it to you, asking and saying, hey, I need the payroll on this. And then what I would do here in this description is I'll put 26 unit motel, revenue is
280.
Yep, 300,000, and payroll 25,000. Okay, so now they really have most of the info, and then the underwriter can kind of review that from there. These are traditionally going to be no, unless they're a contractor. If it's a contractor, it's going to be different. That would be something we would tell you, but most of these are just going to be no. And then we're going to go next. Okay. Prior carrier. We'll click that drop down. We'll click add prior. And then we'll click up here, prior line of business, we'll put general liability. Again, if you didn't know the carrier, that's okay. You could probably just put Lloyd's of London, policy number to be announced. Most of those are. And then effective dates, again, if you didn't know, that's okay. Not all those have to be filled in. Okay, those aren't as important as a lot of the other things. Now, claims is definitely important. So that we have on our fact finder. They've had no claims in the last 5 years. Put that. And then we're going to put here, scroll down, the general information questions. They have a really nice thing that says select all, okay, which is going to default all those to no, which for the most part is what you're going to check. Unless you've been told otherwise, that's what you're pretty much going to check, okay?
Okay.
And then the 125 questions, again, you pretty much check most of those to no, okay? And then the general questions, most of those to no. Okay. The idea here, guys, is really you're doing kind of the heavy lift to get things going, and then the advisor can always clean it up if there's anything that's a little bit unique. We'll click next. If there was an additional interest, we can add that there. All right. So now we're going to click save and close. Okay. So we've got a lot of that info already in there, okay, for the general liability. Now we'll look at the property. So we'll go and we'll click, start getting into the property, and it's going to be the same concept here. We're just kind of following the bouncing ball here, right?
Right.
We're going to go ahead and click add building. Remember too, every location has to have a building. Traditionally, I mean, unless it's vacant land, you normally don't have a location without a building. Putting that info in, saying no, or owner. And we'll click save and add building. Yep. Okay. And then we'll click save. And again, by the time you've done a few of these, it's really going to be pretty much second nature. Okay, I'm just removing that second building that we don't need. Okay. We'll click next. Now, here is subject of insurance and building details. Okay. Now we're kind of getting the rubber meets the road. So here is, we'll put the location in, the building in. Then we click add subject of insurance. Now, all buildings need building coverage or property coverage. Traditionally, you will pull that number from either what someone would put in notes or the building value. Okay?
Right.
The reality is, we would want to go and also use what's on the replacement cost estimate. So that's really important. That's where that replacement cost estimate comes in. So I don't know, did we have a replacement cost estimate done on this one yet, Spencer? Do we know?
Yes, we've done it.
We did. Okay, awesome. So, and just for grins, I want to pull this up now. And again, I did this. As a rough rule of thumb, this is always something. If let's say for whatever reason they didn't fill anything in, okay, you can always use as just a very rough rule of thumb, $100 a square foot. That's probably not too far off. We'll go in here and we'll try and look at the actual replacement cost estimator that you guys did. I would say for most commercial buildings, you're probably seeing maybe anywhere from 110 to maybe 150. So again, 100 maybe a little on the slightly on the low side, but not super far off. Okay. So this was the actual replacement cost estimator. Again, great job. I see everything filled in here. You know, motel, masonry, etc. Okay. So, and I said kind of 110 to 125. So they're coming in right at 118 a square foot. Okay, so they're at 1.4 million right now. Okay, so if you've done that, perfect, we'll use that. Okay, so here we'll put in 1.4 million. Is that 1, 2, 3? Okay, coinsurance is always going to be 80%. What this means for anyone watching is the policy contracts state that the carrier that you need to be 80% to value. This is actually really important. This is actually why the replacement cost estimator is important. So this says, in the replacement cost estimator is done by a company called CoreLogic. It's updated quarterly. So if you look, the cost is literally updated as of March, and it's done by zip code. So these are normally fairly accurate, okay? And this is basically saying, okay, if your building's destroyed, how much does it cost to rebuild? Pretty important number to understand. This is saying 1.4 million. What an 80% coinsurance clause states is we could go as low as 80% of that, or about 1.1 million. If we go lower than that, the carrier will penalize you. Okay? And we'll probably do another video at another time on that. I will state, or will tell you that on our Dropbox file, we have a document where we basically show and walk through the actual calculation of how the carriers penalize you. But the bottom line is, in the event of a claim, you can be penalized if you're underinsured. Keeping it very simple. Okay?
Right.
So that's definitely an important concept for our advisors to know, our sales team to know, our service team to know, all of it. And if something doesn't look right, I want you guys to ask. I want there to be questions. I want you to say, well, wait a minute, you're asking for 500,000 in coverage, but I see the building is, 15,000 square feet. That doesn't make sense. Now, I will say there are times where maybe it's a metal building. Okay, so if it's a metal building, or if it's not an air conditioned, sometimes the price per square foot can be, $50 a square foot. But again, anything that's block, frame, which is the vast majority out there, you're going to be right around that. Like I said, probably 110 to 150 a square foot. So I'd even say just use 110 if you don't see anything else in there. The valuation is always replacement cost. Now you can actually put RC short for that. That means we want it brand new. We don't want it depreciated. The cause of loss is always going to be special. That's the best form there is. Deductibles, I would typically put for this $2,500. We'll put here all other. Forms and conditions off to the side. Normally we would want wind, so I'll put wind 5%. Okay, so for property insurance, you're always, that owns a building, you're always going to need to type in building. And again, if you highlight in here, it'll give you some, B for building, and it'll kind of give you a couple little quick reference things. You're going to want to put the amount, the coinsurance, that's typically, and again, it's going to give you some ideas on this if you just hover in it. The valuation, replacement cost, cause of loss is always going to be special. The deductible, that's the number. All other means anything other than a hurricane or anything other than wind traditionally. And then the wind deductible you normally have is 5%. Again, the carriers and the underwriters will adjust on any of this if it's like, oh, well, we can give you a 2% deductible, let us know that. And then we want to add subject of insurance, okay? And if you look again, if we highlight right in here, or maybe go back up here, if you look, it says business income with extra expense, okay? That's a big one. So we typically have that. So we'll put that in here. How would you know to do that? The way we would know to do that is based on the fact finder where we've got the projected revenue. Because in essence, revenue becomes your loss of income. So what this says is, in the event of a claim, the building is destroyed and burned to the ground, God forbid, we want to make sure that not only are they fixing the building, but they're going to give money for business income. And so really all you need to do is type business income and extra expense and the amount, okay?
Right.
What other things could be in there? Those are going to be the most. There could be contents. Let's say I own the building and I've got contents in there. I could put and say contents 50,000, okay? Those are probably going to be the three biggest that you would always see, okay? And then here we'll put hotel. Protection class is normally 2. Almost always anything that's within any sort of a metropolitan area is normally going to be within 1,000 feet of a fire hydrant and 2 miles of a fire station. So that's what we're putting there. The roof type, this you could look up on Property Appraiser. Typically it's going to be shingle or tar and gravel, something like that. This one I know is a tar and gravel. Total area, again, we're putting 12,000. The year built, again, you should be seeing most of this stuff from the fact finder. If not, you can get it from the Property Appraiser. So here year built is 1988. The construction type is joisted masonry. Okay, and then updates are definitely very important. There should always be updates. And again, you would have to typically see that from the fact finder. If you don't see a specific update, I normally tell people to just put something within like 10 years. Because the reality is, for most people with regards to county codes and inspections, they have to be updating their things within last 10 to 15 years. So we've got that in there. And then heating details, click on this. Normally they're going to want to see central heating and air. So we'll just put central air. The idea is they don't want, what am I looking for? They don't want, like wall units and things like that traditionally, most of the carriers. And then we'll click save, okay? And then we'll go next to the underwriting. Again, the prior carrier would have been the same type of info. Losses done in 5 years, assuming these were true. If there were claims, the agent would have to put that on there. Okay, we'll go to the yes/no questions. Again, most of these are going to be no. And then any remarks or anything, nothing really to put there. Okay. And then we're going to click save and close. Now, hopefully, most of this info is been input into the system that will then pull through onto the Accord. So what do we do from here? So now we go into the form, and we'll go into Accord applications. Okay. And we always want to do the Florida form. Okay. So I'm just going to remove the other form here. Okay. So you can see we've got the Florida, that's your 125, your property is your 140. And then I'm also going to go here and I'm going to type in 126. Okay. Which is my general liability. Okay. So now hopefully I've got those three properly done there. And now from here, to actually see the form, we're going to go to preview. Okay, and we're really kind of at the home stretch here. So now we're going to go to preview. We're going to look, and sometimes it does take a little while to pull through. But in essence, what this is going to do is it's hopefully going to take all the info that we've input into the system, and it's going to put it into these Accord forms. If for whatever reason it did not pull through, you can just go ahead and click on the form here. That's what's nice about this, is it also can be filled. So effective date, you know, and again, you guys can probably do some research on what, you know, where or how to pull some of those specific things through, but the effective date would also typically be the purchaser renewal date. Okay. And so I'm just going to plug that in. 9/15, 2020, 9/15, 21. Okay. Again, a lot of it does not need to be filled out absolutely, but you can see quite a bit of the info pulled through. You know, client's name, email, revenue, square footage, 26-unit motel, the yes/no questions pulled through, no prior claims. Okay. So that's our 125. And then if we look and we go down to our 140, we can see a lot of the 140 info that we put in pulled through, updates, all of that. Okay. And then on the general liability, now for whatever reason, the general, oh, you know what, the general liability, this may not have pulled through because we're not in the general liability app, quote unquote. We're in the property app. So what does that mean? I'll show in a second. For now, I'm just going to download this. And we're going to wrap up here in a few minutes because it looks like I've got 30 minutes on my my screencast for some reason. So we'll save this. So we've got this now. We'll just save. Always recommend just calling it what it is, right? So we'll just call it and say, we'll say Jumana Accord, yeah, insurance, 125 and 140. Okay. Or if you, or you could also just put property insurance application. Okay. And then we'll go back here, and then we're going to go into the general liability. Now, if I go into the general liability, frankly, I can take the other ones out. I already have those. You don't need them twice. But now if I go in here, and I click on this, and click preview, hopefully this info pulled through. Unfortunately, EZLinks doesn't yet have a way to sort of have it pull through on both. But the good news is our efforts were not wasted. So we can see all that info pulled through. Okay?
Right.
And then we've got the yes/no questions, etc. And so now we'll go and we'll download that. And so hopefully, was that helpful for you, Spencer?
Yes, it was.
Awesome. All right, well, I will upload this and then send it to you when it's done. If you've got any questions from there, it'd be a good one to practice. Do the other one, do HKM, see how it goes. And really appreciate, as always, appreciate your help, Spencer.
I appreciate the help as well. Thank you.
See ya. Bye-bye.